All this stuff is just incredible. It's so textured. You have to go at it in pieces. You have to get these pieces in order. This is how we taught the classes. Get that, know how to do the natal chart, get that done, have that contemporary. Even if you come back to it, you have to do the work going over the natal chart. Then you work through the transits and you get your Saturn anchored in, you see the disruptions too. You got your Saturn, they see where someone is in the Saturn cycle, then you got the basic advice you're giving to someone in the world. But then you have to see where the inner spirit is working, where his soul is evolving and how he's assimilating inwardly the outer experiences. And sometimes the progressions reinforce the transits, sometimes they go against the transits. So some inner person is not always connected to the outer. So these are significant shifts, much more personal, more profound. And so in progressed sun, his progressed sun, here's Freud's progressed sun, starts in the 7th house, 16 degrees Taurus, it builds up and goes up, just gets into Leo. And that's it. It may not have quite even got into Leo. I don't have the death date marked on this one. So, okay. But we're looking 83, he had a new moon. So at 83, he met his wife TV, but that's when he was doing the difficult, it's in the 8th house, he was doing the difficult research, the cocaine research with his friend. But by 86, after that, he went into it, because that happened working in this institution, he started on his own practice, on his own psychotherapy, so just after that. And then the progressed full moon came in 1928. So by 28, he'd already had his surgery and he's on his jaw and things, which he's in the older phases. So his Saturn was going down, but his progressed sun is moving up to higher performance, greater social implications, greater involvement, is building up. Both he and Young had their sons going from the 7th house up to the 9th house across their lifetime. And since it hadn't reached the midheaven, they actually became more acknowledged and recognized after posthumously as Saturn kept building up to the midheaven. You can still people follow someone's progressions past their life and see how what's going on years later. So I haven't done it for years, but I've done it I did it for a while for Jung and Freud just to see how their works were expanded and going on. It was really valid. So okay. I want to read the new moon phase, or the phase. The phase is the waning crescent moon phase. So this is the theme that's going on. It's just, okay, his general inner attitude while this stuff is going on. So we gotta go down there to the bottom here. We have, there we go. Waning crescent moon phase. Okay. So this is the whole period from the time he was traveling with Young down to the States, coming back, they're identifying this, they're going, Young's working more and more in his collective unconscious and his synchronicity. Well, he was on the synchronicity stuff on his collective unconsciousness, and Freud was holding into his psychotherapy, and it's more practical not to go to the mystical side of things. So this is the last phase of the lunar cycle before the new moon. It's often called the balsamic moon phase and lasts for 3.5 days in progressions 3.5 years from the crescent to the new moon. The light finally disappears into the mystery of silence and darkness. Completion becomes important. Your own projections seem to disappear in the vastness of all that is happening about you. So all his projections of where he thought he was going to go with Freud, with Jung, where he thought he was going to do things, they were just disappearing. You are searching for something new, but are unsure how to end the old attachments. Your awareness of others begins to lose relevance as you approach renewal. Try to understand what needs to be left behind. It's really incredible because Uranus and Neptune came in and he was being forced to let it behind, almost not by choice, but in the end, his whole inner spirit was aligned to this as well. This should be a daily meditation. You have the uncanny ability to know when anything is ending or about to fall apart. Unfortunately, it's not usually wise to tell others about it. They would probably consider you to be too negative. So he didn't talk to people about Freud. He kept the repression inside. You need to learn why things come to an end. It's important for you to mind your own business and you will keep seeing everything that is going to collapse, or you will keep seeing everything that's going to collapse on everyone. Learn to look within for the new vision. Trust silence. Take steps to move towards your vision. Be very selective. Listen and wait. The whole process was he had a vision he was working towards, and he brought someone in who was listening to him but not supporting his vision. He brought in an unreliable student. Often people will not appreciate you till you're gone. Try to ensure that your influence is a positive one. Watch what you say. Often you will seem overwhelmed by the useless or futile commitments. Do not try to save face. Be honest and let go. The saving face, it says double standard there. Saving face and having students not being a student. Had to save face over that. Be honest, let go. But really, he was at the beginnings of cancer where he was literally trying to save his face. But that's just another twist. The quality of ending will directly affect the nature of the new beginning just about to become. So be wise. No doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. It may not make sense to others, but if you trust your conscience, you will see the way. Hold on to your principles. Do not make promises that you cannot keep, especially long-term promises. You have the tendency to lose yourself in others only to be left very insecure when they do not have the answers. You want to be completely involved with someone. You'll constantly search for or wonder about the ultimate love of your life. Often you will feel that what you have is not enough, and that then you will wonder why you bothered to stay with it. It's really interesting in how this applies to this situation. You are looking for completion and fulfillment and are not likely to embrace freedom comfortably. You want to burn your past for future goals, but he was thinking his future goals that they were supposed to work together, but it wasn't. He had to do it himself. It's amazing, though, how long you can procrastinate and wait. He waited from the beginning. Because when they got that close, he read his fear of getting older and living off the youthfulness of young. He projected into that from the very beginning, and it took him the 5 years for it to play out. You want to help, but often do not know what to do. You'll probably not bother until someone else cares. A little encouragement can have profound effects. To attract positive feedback, you must be positive towards others. If you must end a situation, it is important for the reason to be correct. Otherwise, your problems will reoccur in the new arena. So I think he was very aware of that it was getting so messy and sloppy, he had to end it because Freud Young was an embarrassment to him. And it ended and they went separate ways, and that's history. So, okay. But I always find the progressed moon phases give a really good theme of how to come into the progressions and see what's going on within the transits. It's really, the Church Light just works with their astrology, they just work with the progressions, and they feel the progressions evolve and the transits act out the progressions. They're both affecting the natal chart. It's the progressions to the natal chart, transits to the natal chart. There's no need to go progressions to the transits. It's too far out there. It's just progressions that affect you, transits that affect you, and work with, and not all of them, just the main ones, so you get the main core and you can see the perspective. Otherwise, there's too much going on. So, okay. Now we're going to take a look at Mercury. Okay, we're doing good. Okay, so we see that Mercury went forward. Oh, there's a loop. It went retrograde and direct in his life. So we're going to have to, and it went, this is going retrograde and direct back and forth 3 times over his Saturn, Mars, Jupiter's T-square. Went back and forth 3 times, hitting those 3 planets. Boom, 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 in the 8th house. That created a great depth of psychoanalysis, of psychology, of understanding trust. It was really strong, and this was part of his understanding in a personalized way. So let's look at this a little more closely. So here's his mind in the 7th house in Taurus, working forward. It's going forward. It hits the moon. Something, but then here in, must be 74, it hit the Jupiter, then the Saturn, then the Mars. Saturn, Jupiter, Mars. So it hits the three of them and goes back and forth. So I marked them in. I don't have the dates on these, but they were really before it went retrograde. They went back over these three hits, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and they went forward again. So his whole thing, what he's doing, his aggression, his sexuality, is pushing. That went, he was assessing that from a Gemini perspective. It went up into the Cancer perspective, back into there, back forward, and then it went forward from 1927 on. But in this 1885, so he's only 29, Saturn return, that's when Mercury went retrograde. That can't be. That must be some. That must be the aspect, because then it went retrograde. We'll see it. And then in 1913, it went direct. And 1913 was when it went direct, was the end of that relationship, and the relationship was the last 5 years of this retrograde period. So it had been going on before. His Mercury was backing over things, reassessing things. All issues of trust, of sharing and feeling, wanted someone else to be committed to his ideas. He found someone, and for a young wanting to study from him, he found someone he felt was committed to his ideas. And so he would teach him. He was just wanting to learn to add it to his own perspective. But Freud missed that and assumed he was going to be his student and carry on his ideas. So his Mercury was going back over, and then when retrograde, it's over, and he had to think through, pause it more correctly, more constructively, go over all these things again over the next 12 years until Saturn got past that first retrograde point, and then it went forward on his own. So he had a lot of in-depth thinking to do over that period in the 8th house. Now, his Venus, just straightforward all his life. I don't know why it's in yellow, but I just had done it then. I usually would have put it in green, but anyways, here's the closer look. The Venus comes up, 63, it hit to January. We don't have anything said about it in that time. By 72, the Venus is conjuncting a Sun, and 72, in 73, he got his diploma. He got his high school diploma, his mature diploma. So he starts to get his confidence around things. Then by 76, it's conjunct Uranus. In 76, he did med research in Trieste, and he went to Austria to work with Brookie. So he started to move towards hypnotism and alternative ways. That's the Venus on the Uranus, exciting. In 83, it hit his Mercury. In 83, he met his wife to 82, he met his wife to be. And okay, so then 95, the Venus hit the moon. In 95, he was living in his home in Vienna, but in 96 was the first use of the term psychotherapy. So then it built up 1900, 1907, the Venus was conjuncting Saturn. That's when he met Jung. Venus conjunct Saturn. Already had an inhibition, or sort of running into wanting something and it being more serious. There's an underbelly of frustration within that, or repression within that. And by the time it hits the Saturn, by the time it got to hit the Mars, 1911, it knows it's falling apart. The Mars is still trying to hold together, but he's working towards the trust, towards trying to hold together. But so his emotions are measuring it and wanting it, but the outside is breaking up. It hasn't quite broken up yet, but it would shortly thereafter. And then it would be, so his emotional life would be smoother after that for a while. Okay. Now, his Mars is interesting because his Mars starts retrograde. His Mars is retrograde to begin with. Now, I don't use the retrogrades in the natal chart as a positive or negative factor. You're still trying to work with that planet in the sign, the house, and its categories and the aspects. But the retrograde explains itself in the progressions. So his Mars retrograde, I'll just get a closer view of this.